Hello everyone and welcome to another video in this channel. Today it should be, I think, Saturday for you. Saturday is usually a low views date, but maybe this topic will be good enough for everyone to tune in and watch the texturing phase of things. Today we're going to continue with the texturing of this little character right here. Yesterday we finished the UVs, we did the base, we troubleshoot some of the things that we were having issues with, and this is what we have right now. Now I'm going to be doing I will call it a more like artistic approach to the whole texturing process. So this is not the way that I normally texture things, especially if we're going for realistic stuff, but this is a little bit stylized, right? It's like fantasy. So I think we can really benefit from doing a little bit of that sort of more hand painted approach. So before we jump into this, just a couple of announcements. Someone asked me on the comments about my opinion about the whole AI stuff. I've made a video about AI a couple of months ago. I actually show you how to use, I think it was Stable Diffusion back then. I think we definitely need rules. My opinion is that we definitely need some rules. We definitely need to know when a piece has been generated through AI, so that way people are not what's the word, like juked? No, like lied into believing that someone did something that was not done by them. And I also think that there should be some sort of like guidelines or laws regarding copyright, because I don't think it's fair for someone to create their own like artistic stuff for like 10, 20, 30 years and then just get someone else to prompt and get something that looks really, really close to that. There's like a lot of very famous artists like I really like Scott Campbell. There's like anyone you can think, even like Raphael Grossetti, Furio Tedeschi. Like you can create stuff that look like they did it, and I don't think that's fair. So there's definitely need to be some like laws or rules or guides to generate that. But we'll see. The thing is, AI is not going anywhere. That's my main fear. Like I know that even if there's regulation, people will still use it. People will still abuse it, as they've done with a lot of different tools throughout the ages. So we are gonna have to find a way to evolve and to find the best possible way to work with this. So yeah, that's my general opinion. Maybe we'll have another video talking about that, but let me know in the comments what you think. It's a hot topic right now. So yeah. Now jumping into texturing, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna start building things from scratch, right? Like whenever I start like texturing anything, I like to do this in a sort of like layer way. So I'm gonna go back to this plastic pure. I'm gonna Control G to create a new folder. I'm gonna call this skin, and this is gonna be my main skin thing. Now, whenever I'm working with like colors or anything, I like to work flat first. So I'm going to bring the roughness all the way up so that we only focus on the colors for now. And as you can see, if we take a look at the image, the artist was very like precise in showing us what kind of like things we're going for, right? Like we have some like red hues everywhere. We have some like clear colors right here. So again, we're going to use a mix of a lot of things to generate this sort of elements. I'm going to again try to keep this simple to get this in the best possible way. And we're going to start with a fill layer. This fill layer I'm going to call the shadows. And as you can see, we have this very nice red hue going all around like some specific parts of the character. So I'm going to sample that color, that red hue-ish colors, something like this. There we go. I'm going to get rid of everything except for the color. I don't want roughness. I don't want anything. And then I'm going to use the same thing that we did yesterday. I'm going to add a black mask. I'm going to add a generator, and I'm going to add a dirt generator. The dirt generator is really good because, as you can see right here, it brings or it places this paint on the crevices of the character. So it's a very, very like quick and easy way to generate this sort of stuff. However, one thing I don't like about this is, as you can see, it's very general. It goes everywhere. So first of all, I'm going to reduce the intensity a little bit, and I'm going to change the color to something like an overlay. I really like using blending modes to get more integrated colors overall. Now, I can already see certain parts that are looking quite nice, like the eyes and all of the membranes over here, but I can also see some areas that are not getting as much love as I would like to. So here's where I'm going to right click. I'm going to add a paint layer. I'm going to go to my brushes over here. I'm going to look for this dirt spots brush. This one is a really good one that we can use to start filling in certain areas as a paint layer. This is an extra layer on top of the mask that we have to give more depth where we might need it. So for instance, this thing right here, I think we can use more depth. If you have a tablet, by the way, I'm going to try to use my tablet a little bit more here. So if you have a tablet, I do believe we have pressure sensitivity of here, like the size and the pressure sensitivity. And we can be even more precise on our stuff. People sometimes ask me about like what tablets do I recommend. For a long time, I was a Wacom user. I used to have an Intuos Pro, which was one of those like large tablets. It was not a display; it was just a tablet, and it worked really, really well. I had that for like 10 years. Well, not 10, but like 8 years. And earlier this year, I got myself the Huion Campus 16, which is a 16-inch display tablet. Let's see if I can show it to you. This guy right here. Oh, there we go. Like that. So this one's it's been good. I'm not that used to working on the display, to be honest. So I've had some issues like trying to do this. It's like shortcuts and stuff. I'm not so used. Shift and right click is the shortcut to move the light around. Very important. There we go. Now you can see as we get closer to the top part of the head, I actually want to add a little bit more of this redness, kind of like on the border. This is going to be another way in which we're going to be able to modify the border. F is the shortcut to frame things. So if you're having issues with the camera, you can press F. So I think this nice little red hue all over the place. Now, one of the things that I don't like about this dirt thing is that it goes to the areas where dirt would normally accumulate. And you can see on the arms, for instance, we have a lot of dirt on the top, and I don't want that. So I can press X to go into black, and the black mode will remove all of this stuff. I definitely want to remove a lot of these things from the upper part of the legs. So I wouldn't expect there to be as much dirt on those particular areas. Light a little bit. There we go. All of this here. I'm not using symmetry. That's on purpose to have a little bit more control as well. So I don't want things when we use your symmetry, things tend to look very similar. Well, symmetrical, right? So by removing symmetry, we can ensure that we get a better effect. There we go. Move the light a little bit. There we go. Now you can see also that on the chin, like on this area of the chin, with the white, I would expect to have a little bit more color. I'm gonna start adding the color there. Make the brush smaller. Same for the legs. You can see all of the legs have this sort of like reddish hue on the tips. Start adding that, and also the back part of the tail. A little bit of color right there. Now here is where we need to actually play around and bring more life into the whole thing. A lot of people, when they're texturing, especially here in Substance, which is it's an amazing software to texture, but a lot of people, they go the easy way. They just add one layer and that's it, and that's not the way to get the best results. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna grab this layer right here. I'm gonna add a black mask, or sorry, I'm gonna duplicate the layer, and then I'm gonna remove the things that we have. I'm gonna add another black mask, and the tone is gonna go a little bit darker. Like you can see how we go for this like dark red color. There we go. And now this is only gonna be a paint layer, so I'm gonna right click and add a paint layer. And what I'm gonna do here, is just paint the tips of the element. So as you can see, we're overlaying a little bit of extra shadow in certain areas of the character. And that's gonna give us way, way, way better texture. As you can see, the dirt brush that we're using as well, it's a really good brush because it's it has little dots, and by doing this little dot thingy, we create a more like texture effect. I'm gonna draw. I'm gonna paint a little bit more shadow. This is like artificial light, right? We're painting certain types of light. If you've never taken a painting class, I strongly recommend go to your. There's usually in cities. There's usually like libraries or art centers, and they offer those classes for quite cheap. So if you can get that, like any traditional art skill that you can get is always valuable. Same for like where it like collapses or touches the element. Here, actually, I'm gonna turn on symmetry for just a little bit. So we get the proper shadows on the eyes. Then on this area right here, darken that a little bit. Remember to press Shift and right click to turn the camera around or the light around. That's gonna give you another way to look how, or to appreciate how things are looking. There we go. Now, I haven't seen, or we haven't seen the inside of the mouth, right? But we can expect this to be like a dark, like red color. So I'm gonna add another field layer. We're gonna go for like a pinkish, let's go for like a pinkish, purplish, like dark purple color, something like that. And we're also gonna go into overlay. There we go. As you can see, overlay multiplies the colors in interesting ways. And the reason why that's so useful is because we get some like visuals that will be very difficult to get otherwise. Now, see how it's getting a little bit complicated to paint on the underside here? If you're having issues, you can always go to F2. And if you find your UV, which in this case is right here, as you can see, I can paint here without having to worry about painting any other areas. That's why UVs are so important. I think this is the lower part, so paint here. So you can always paint on either the UV or the main shape. People, of course, prefer to paint on the main shape, right? But it can be done everywhere. A little bit of this thing right here. That way we have the sort of like purplish hue there on the inside of the mouth. Remember, we're only focusing on color right now. This is the first like pass, and we're only focusing on color. Press F2 again, or now. And now what I want to do is I want to start cleaning out some of the teeth. So first of all, I'm going to go here. I'm going to press X. I'm going to make my brush smaller. We're going to clean up all of the purpley things that we don't want on the teeth. I want a couple of like dots and stuff, but not as much. Just clean this up. And you can see that the teeth are way shinier and of a different color. So we're going to add another fill layer. Again, only color for now. We're gonna go for that sort of like really white color. Black mask, and in here I'm gonna change this to a dirt splash brush. Make the brush smaller. There we go. We're gonna carefully paint the. Now remember that thanks to the way we're working, if we mess up, just press X, and X is going to go to black, and we're going to be able to paint out things that we might have messed up. That's why working with layers and with masks is so important here inside of Substance. By the way, if you want to learn a little bit more about Substance, oh my god, sorry, my microphone was way too far away. If you want to learn a little bit more about Substance, make sure to check the courses. We released some very cool courses about Substance Painter a few months ago, and you can find them in Skillshare. Hey guys, Abraham here. I just wanted to remind you guys that we upload all of our courses to Skillshare. Skillshare is this amazing site where you can access a ton of different content to learn, improve, and grow as an artist. We have all of our courses available to watch and learn from right now in Skillshare. You can check the description down here, and Skillshare is offering 1 free month trial to their premium membership. With this membership, you're going to be able to access all of our courses and watch and learn all of the amazing things that we cover with all of the softwares. So, what are you waiting for? Check Skillshare down here below. There we go. So let's just press X again to paint this guys right here. And we should definitely go to the small teeth that he has up here as well. I'm gonna make my brush really small to be very careful about this, guys. And we can just paint this. Perfect. So how nice this looks now. We're getting there. This is again just the first like construction layer, but it's already giving this very nice effect. Oh, of course we have the teeth here on the front as well. So let's carefully paint this, guys. There we go. Now what we can do here again to blend the colors, because right now this is like a layer that's on top of everything. So if we go to the options, we can of course use overlay, which is going to give us this sort of like yellowish hue. Or the one that I like the most is linear dodge. Linear dodge also blends the color. You can see some of the points like passing through. And we can play around with the intensity here as well to maybe like bring this down a little bit. There we go. That will be like the teeth of the character. Now, usually on the teeth, you get this sort of like brown stuff on monsters, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add another fill layer. Again, just the color for now. And we're going to grab this sort of like pretty much the same brown. add a black mask. And very carefully, we're gonna paint in a little bit of this brown effect here on the teeth. And as you can see, I'm playing around with my pressure and with the intensity of my brush to kind of like fade this in. So we want to have a little bit more on the border and a little bit less as we go like further up. Now this looks a little bit ugly. So one of the things that we're definitely going to do is change this to overlay, or maybe like a multiply. Multiply looks good, and then just decrease the intensity a little bit, like 64 sounds good. That way we can add this sort of like dirt on the teeth. That's going to add depth to the whole thing as well. Going to add more depth, but we're not going to be like destroying or creating some ugly things here. It's going to look quite nice. There we go. Definitely add a little bit of that up here, and that's it. And finally, we can go with another fill layer on top. Again, no colors, just or no nothing, just colors. And let's grab the highlight again. We add a black mask, and we're gonna paint the tip, especially on this guys right here. I really want to paint this tip. Now we can definitely go here and make this a little bit wider. There we go, and then change it to linear dodge as well. So it really brings. There we go. That's a little bit too much, so we're gonna bring the linear dodge down, and maybe go a little bit more into the yellows. But it's gonna give us a nice little change in the details, right? That way we can bring in the highlights on the color itself to create more volume for the character. Let's go to the teeth here. There we go. Now I'm gonna show you one little trick. This is one of my advanced tricks, so make sure to use it because it's a really good one. We're gonna add a little bit of subsurface scattering to the whole character, a fake subsurface scattering. So subsurface scattering is this property that characters have where light goes through the object and it gives this sort of like a fleshy look, right? So I'm gonna add a red layer, red fill layer, only color. Right click, and we're gonna add a fill layer instead of a paint layer, and we're gonna look for the thickness map. The thickness map is one of the maps that gets baked when we do the bakes. And what we can do here is we can add a levels to this thickness map, invert the levels, and look at that. We get this very nice pink hueish effect. Now, of course, this one, we need to use something like an overlay or maybe like a linear dodge. Linear dodge is usually the one that I use. And as you can see, the parts that are thinner are going to give us this sort of like a more alive reddish effect. Look at the little legs right there. You can of course change this, like this is a little bit too red. I'm going to go for like a pinkish hue, a little bit pink like this. And we can also play around on the levels with how intense or how soft we want this to be. In this case, I want to be a little bit more specific on certain areas. But look at that. This little like effect right there makes the whole character look way more alive. And it's a very simple like pass that you can do. I'm gonna move my tablet to the side for a little bit. I'm gonna do it with mouse now, and we're gonna work on the purple side thing now. So if we go to the purple side, which is this one right here, we're gonna go, follow a very similar effect. I'm gonna Control G this thing, so this is gonna be called purple. And we're gonna start playing around with this thing. I'm gonna bring the roughness of this first layer all the way up again, so that we only focus on the color. We're gonna focus on the roughness at the very end. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start bringing in some generators. I'm gonna show you how we can paint this thing with pretty much only generators. So let's start with our highlights. For the highlights, I'm gonna create a new fill layer. Or actually, let's start with the shadows, and we're gonna grab the same purple color, but we're gonna go a little bit blue and darker like this. I'm gonna say add a black mask, and we're gonna add a generator, and this is called a light generator. So the light generator is pretty much like if we're shining a light on the character, and as you can see right here, we get all of this dark colors on the top. What we can do is we can actually like flip this around, so we get the dark colors on the bottom. Look at that. I'm gonna press C so that we can go to the what's the word, to the channels, and this is the color channel that we're looking at right now. And we can play around with things like the highlight glossiness, the highlight level. There we go. And all of this is color. It looks like a shadow, but it's actually color. So now if we go back to M, which is the material, you're gonna see how we get this very nice like gradient coming from the bottom. Now I am gonna add a paint layer. Or actually on this light thing, I'm actually gonna change this to multiply, so that it multiplies itself against the original mask that we had, and it should only be affecting the things that already had the blue or the purple color. Now we probably need to go back to the light option and change a couple of things here. I'm not seeing that much change. That's right, because we don't have any mask over here. Okay, now let's go back to normal. And we can either like paint this out, or we can go, actually let's keep this to multiply. Let's go back to this guy right here. And if we start painting, as you can see on these areas, that's where we're gonna see the light effect coming through. So let's just, I'm doing a little bit this in a little bit of a loosier way. That's fine, because we're indicating where we want this effect to be taking place, which is pretty much this area. If we see there's a little bit too much there, that's fine. We can even grab like a softer brush, like the dirt spots that we were using. It's gonna give us a little bit of a softer, nicer effect. There we go. Let's go back to M, which is the material, and look at that. Like, look how much this layer gives like depth to the whole character. Not bad, right? Now we're gonna use something similar. We're gonna use a fill layer. Never use white or black for the highlights. Always use the colors, because colors are gonna allow you to have more range on the overall thing. There's a black mask again. We're gonna use, in this case, the light color again. It's gonna be a little bit easier, so we're gonna use a generator. We're gonna use the light generator. We're gonna push it from the top, and we're gonna play a little bit with the highlight, like this, and we can really bring the light attenuation low or high, so that it hits the top parts of the character a little bit more, like that. Look at that. Not bad. Now this one, I usually like to have this as a linear dodge, and then play around with the intensity depending on how high or not I want this to be. Again, don't worry about the glossiness. Like these things, the really high whites that you see, that's glossiness. That's going to be the material, and we're going to add that later on. Unless you're doing a hand-painted character. If you want to check that out, I did one for the Pokeball a couple of weeks ago, where we painted everything with like a flat color. But in this case, we are going for some material. We're going to be using some materials. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now we can of course add more stuff. So one thing I can do here is I can go here to the plastic mat. I'm going to copy this mask. I'm going to copy mask, and then I'm going to go to the group itself. I'm going to add a black mask to the group, and I'm going to paste into mask. So that way, anything that gets inside of this element will automatically only affect the things that we originally painted on the purple color. I'm going to add a fill layer now, and this is going to be my dirt. So I'm going to add a sort of like dark purple color like this. Add a black mask, add the generator, and this is going to be a dirt generator. It's going to allow me to add, some more depth to the whole thing. So you can see it makes things very, very grungy. Let's change this to an overlay, and let's play a little bit with the intensity of this guy right here. So I do want a little bit of that, again, not that much. I can also bring the grunge amount lower, a little bit lower. There we go. And yeah, as you can see, this is giving us a really, really nice vibe in general. Now, this was the original dirt that we were adding. We don't need this anymore, so I'm going to delete it. And let's do the eyes real quick. The eyes are just black, and now we're going to start playing with the roughness, so we get the proper material colors. So for the eyes, we want a low roughness. I'm going to bring the roughness down, and the color is going to be a black color. And literally, the only thing we need to do is we need to add a black mask, go to number 4, and with our polygon fill, select polygons, and just fill this guys in. As you can see right there. It's going to give us the nice color right there. Now, talking about, again, roughness, right now, everything is the same matte effect except for the eyes. The eyes are the only thing that are changing. Oh, wait, I actually forgot this guy's right here. So this guy's actually already have some nice colors. So I'm just going to add a fill layer. And since we're already playing with glossiness and stuff, I'm going to keep this one like this. I'm just going to go for like a red color, black mask, select those two guys. And there we go, because I do believe they were like dark red. And now if we do overlay, let's go for like a darker red. There we go. And we can play a little bit with the roughness, maybe not so rough like that. And we can, of course, overlay them a little bit so we get some of those nice hues that we had from the other layers. There we go. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're going to go to the folders themselves. And if I add a fill layer, what I can do is I can actually play around and say, hey, I want this fill layer to only affect the roughness. And as you can see, one of the advantages of doing this is that we get a very uniform roughness overall. So if we want this carapace to be really shiny, we can bring this down and create like a really shiny carapace that's affecting everything in a very similar fashion. But you might say, yeah, I like that, but I would like to have some like dirt or something, some areas that are not as shiny, because right now everything is super, super shiny. What can we do here? Well, we can add something like a rust layer, for instance. Use the rust material that we have right here, the rust fine, which is going to change the effect. Add a black mask. Let's add a generator. Let's add a dirt generator. Just going to go to the lower areas right there. And what we can do is we can say, hey, we don't need the color. We really don't want the color. So I'm just going to turn the color off. And what that will do, as you can see, is certain areas are not going to be as rough as other areas. And certain areas are going to be a little bit more shiny. We also get a little bit of bumpiness, which is quite nice, as you can see right there. That's this very nice, like high frequency detail to the whole character, to the whole thing. And it's giving us this very nice, shiny, like insect carapace thing. You could also, by the way, like if we go here, we can turn on the metal option. And if we turn this metallic, we can have like a metallic carapace. So if you want to go for this like super intense alien look thing, there we go. You usually don't want to have like an intermediate. It's either metal or non-metal. I'm going to keep it non-metal for now. And we're going to do the same thing for the skin, which is, I would say, even easier because the skin is pretty much all like squishy and fluffy. So we're just going to add another fill layer. And we're going to turn off all of these things. We're just going to keep the roughness. And we're going to keep the roughness a little bit rougher than the carapace itself. We want to have a little bit of variation. I'm also going to use the rust to give some variation to some areas. This is, again, a very fast and loose way to do it. There's more specific ways to do it. But we're not going to have a lot of time to do that on this tutorial. We're going to add a black mask. This is just going to be roughness. And the black mask is going to be a fill layer. And it's just going to be not a fill layer, a generator. And it's going to be a dirt generator. There we go. So as you can see, certain parts of the character are going to be a little bit flatter than others. And this is what we're going to get. And finally, for the teeth, for instance, we can add another layer. Again, turn everything off. Add a black mask. And then just paint the layers or the teeth so that they shine a little bit more. It's kind of like adding a gloss pass on certain things. Same for the mouth, right? Like maybe we do want the mouth to be a lot more interesting. There we go. I do feel like the colors went a little bit orangey. So I'm going to go to this guy right here. Is it the shadows? Yeah, it's the shadows. Okay, so the shadows here, it's bringing more towards the yellowish colors. A little bit lighter as well. And that's it. That's one way to do this. Now, one last thing I like to do, sometimes, not always, but I like to throw in just a final like rust pass at the very top. I'm gonna add a black mask here. I'm gonna add a generator, and we're just gonna use the dirt generator again because it's really good. And then we're gonna change this to an overlay and keep this really, really, really low. We can also play around with this so that it's not affecting everything. It's just a way to add just like a last bit of detail in certain areas. As you can see right there, like even if we get this sort of like red hue right there, I think it's fine. Just gonna add something interesting overall, and it's just gonna change the visual interest, as I like to call it, of the character. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I'm not sure if I want to add something on the carapace. I think I do. So here's where you can play around with materials. So for instance, here I have this crumbling rock material, okay? And it might not seem like much, but if I add this here, as you can see, we're gonna get this interesting like rock texture everywhere. And you can be like, hey, that doesn't look that good. I agree, but if we turn everything off, we only keep the color, and we change the color to something like an overlay, look at that. We can generate something interesting, or we can even change this to like a linear dodge, I think. It's gonna be better. And then just play around with the intensity here. And what this can do, as you can see, is it can add some like a visual texture to the whole thing. We can even keep the roughness if we want to. I don't think we want the normal map. The normal map is not that bad. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the normal channel here, and I'm going to bring the normal map information down. So I do want to like add a little bit of like, you know, roughness to the whole thing, like make the carapace look not as uniform as what we had, but not that bad. There we go. We can even go to the roughness and say like, hey, you know what? Like I do want to have the roughness of this guy, but not as much. It's kind of like a layer to reduce the amount of roughness that we're gonna have. It's not bad. I do think the light right now is looking a little bit too light. So I'm gonna go back to normal. And I want to have this deep purple color back. Yeah, it's just a matter of finding the perfect stuff, and it takes time, right? Like I'm trying to do this as I wouldn't say as fast as possible, but I'm not taking my time. I'm just showing you the general process of how this is done, so that you can also follow along. I think we need like another purple layer, so I'm just gonna here's a nice trick. You can just grab like a fill layer, grab the purple color that you want. This to me looks like, I don't know, I want it like really saturated. There we go. Like a dark saturated, and then we can go into like overlay and just play around with the intensity. So kind of like having like a general pass over the whole thing. This looks a little bit better. Nice, 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 nice. So yeah, there we go. Trying to see what else we want. I think the skin looks a little bit flat. So I'm also gonna go to the rust here, or to this fill layer that has a roughness. I'm gonna bring it down. Especially on this area, you can kind of see that it's not that shiny. There we go. It's the rust. So we're gonna go to the roughness of the rust. We're also gonna reduce it a little bit because I do want the character to shine, or to have like squishier skin. Could be this last one as well. Let's bring in some. There we go. So cool. Now we can of course go here and get an idea of how this thing is going to look. Not bad. Again, more time, more elements that we might be able to. If we had more time or more stuff that we can add, that we can definitely like create something even more like cooler looking, right? But I think this looks quite nice. I really like how this is looking. So yeah, I think this is gonna be it. This is where we're gonna stop this this one. I'm not sure. There's a couple of things here that I would like to change. Feels like, is this the, okay, that's fine. Where's the, feels like the shadows right here. Like I would like to have a little bit more depth on this guy's right here. See how we get those nice shadows? Let me show you another trick here. I'm gonna use another fill layer. That's fine. And it's only gonna be a color, maybe roughness. We're gonna go for like a dark brown, and we're gonna add a fill mask, or we're gonna add a black mask, and then we're gonna add a fill layer, and on that fill layer we're gonna look for the ambient occlusion, map. This one right here. We're also gonna need to use a levels to invert that mask. There we go. And see, now with this one we can really, there we go, that's what I wanted. We can really push some lines over there to get a more intense looking thing. Of course, we change this to an overlay or a multiply. In this case, I think it's better. And we just bring this down. So with this, we can add a little bit more depth to this guy's right here. You can see how it gives me that extra layer of multiplication. And again, if this is a little bit too dark, you can go to more like a red hue or something. That's it. Now, we still have a little bit of time, so I'm going to export this. Well, first of all, let's save. Never forget to save. And we're going to export this, and I just want to show you how this guy would look assembled, because right now, with the jaw falling down, it's going to be a little bit difficult, right? So we're going to export the textures, and we eventually want these things to go all the way to Unreal, right? That would be the goal, or that's the goal. So what we're going to do here is we're going to export this as Unreal Engine 4 packed. That's the preset that we're going to use here. Unreal Engine 4 packed. There we go. And we export. We're going to get 4K textures, as you're about to see. As soon as this is done. There we go. So we got the textures here. It's the base color, normal, and occlusion roughness metallic. Now, the interesting thing here is, I'm going to close this. If we go to Maya and we try to render this thing, we're going to need to load the textures or create the textures in a specific way. I'll show you how to do this fast right here. So I have the render scene, which is the one that you guys been seeing, not for the last part. This is part 5, I think. So for part 4, we did just take a screenshot from Substance. But for the first 3 parts, we did a nice little render in Maya. And now we're just going to continue with this one. So I'm going to show you my render scene. This render scene, by the way, this was one of the, I think it was one of the Christmas gifts last year where I did a render thing. So it's all in the channel, guys. There's so much content in the channel. I know a lot of you guys, it might be the first time you're seeing the things that we have right here. But believe me, we've been working on this channel for quite a bit now. So there's a lot of content that you can go back and check if you want to. Most of it's up to date, so it's still applicable to a lot of the things that we're doing right now in the 3D world. So this is the render setup. As you can see, this was the high poly. We don't need it anymore. And this was the low poly. We also don't need it anymore. And the reason why we don't need that guy anymore is because that guy had no UVs. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to bring my Fogling FPX. Just bring it in. He's going to be all the way back here. It's going to be really small because this scene was not... Before we do that, let's assemble it. There we go. So I'm just going to grab the jaw, bring it up, and position it where it's supposed to be, which is right around there. Now let's grab the group. Let's move it up, scale it. He's going to be right around there. Let's scale it up a little bit. I have my camera here. This is my shot cam. This is where the render is going to be coming from. So let's make it a little bit bigger. Rotate a little bit, and there we go. So if we were to render him right now, we wouldn't get anything, right? Because, I mean, we would get just like a clear render because he's got no textures. So we need to build the material. I'm going to build it manually real quick so that we cover all of the bases. But it's a rather simple process. If you've never used this thing right here, the Hypershade, then yeah, it might be a little bit complicated. But that's why we have all of the courses available down there on the description, which I have like Maya courses, ZBrush courses, everything. So that all of these things that we're talking about here make more sense once you understand the process. I'm gonna call this what's his name? Fogling. There we go. And if we go to our images, right here, not those ones, this ones, we can just like literally drag and drop this three guys right here. This is the base color. This is the normal map. And this is the occlusion, roughness, metallic. So the base color, very easy. Color goes into color. And once I do that, you're going to see if we go over here, as soon as we assign the material to this guy, the textures are there, right? You can even turn on the lights and you're going to get a glimpse of how this is gonna look, but we need to connect everything else. So the roughness, occlusion, roughness, metallic is a really interesting map because it has more information than you might think. First of all, we need to change this to raw so that it doesn't color correct the colors and we get exactly what we got inside of Substance. And the second, we need to connect the roughness, which is the green channel, to the specular roughness, and the metallic to the metalness map. The occlusion we can multiply against the color to get like an extra punch on the contrast, but we're not going to use it right now. And finally, the most important one is this one, which is the normal map. So we need an AI normal map node. We're going to input the color into the input. This one needs to also be set to raw. And then the out value goes to normal camera. So now the material is properly set up, and we're going to save the scene, and we're going to take a quick render. I'm going to say panels, look through selected, and we're going to say Arnold render. And see if it's displaying correctly, because sometimes, even if we render, things are not going to display correctly and we need to do some tweaking. Mainly the normal map. I'm a little bit worried about the normal map because we are using DirectX, which is the one for Unreal. And Maya, I think, uses OpenGL, so might look a little bit different. There we go. So when I'm looking at the normal map is I want to make sure that it looks like it's going forward, not outward. And right now you can see how the dimples, they kind of look like they're going in instead of out. So I think our normal map is it's not properly done. So I'm gonna go over here, and on the AI normal map we can invert the y-axis. And by doing that, now it should display properly. Now the points look like they're actually going forward. And that's it. Look at this. Not bad, huh? Not freaking bad. It definitely looks stylized. It's not realistic. We're not going for a realistic look, but I think it looks really, really, really cool. I'm tempted to go back and paint a little bit more highlights on the purple because I do think we're losing a little bit of that. But I'll see. So for now, this is it, guys. This is the final result for our textures, and we're ready to move on to one of the most interesting parts of the whole process, which is our rigging. We're gonna be rigging this guy, and I'm gonna probably have to break that down into two parts. One where we do the rig, and one where we do the controllers, because it's definitely a little bit complex. It's a complex topic, but yeah, that's it for this one, guys. Hope you like it so far, and I'll be seeing you back on the next part. Bye bye.